So it's 6 a.m. over there, and it is obviously 9 over here. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Jenny, were you planning to join the live, or were we just going to do Zoom for you?
I'm just doing Zoom.
Okay. All right. So Jenny has, I consider her to be just like a guru in all special education. And here you're on screen now, Jenny. And she is really just is going to offer a wealth of knowledge today, and just some bite-sized also tips and things that we can walk away with to better support both our students, our own kids, if you're a parent with a child that has special needs. Jenny's also just going to share, what she has seen in this season, and just in talking to her, she's just always so enlightening. So I'm so excited to have her. But listen, let me just flip this over really quick. Happy Friday, everyone. If you're just joining and you know anyone who is a teacher who serves special needs kids with learning disabilities, or a teacher, who needs a lot of help with how to accommodate for their students, this is a conversation that people need to be in. So go over and invite your friends to come on in here. We're going to also be answering any live questions today. So you guys ready? All right, here we go. Good morning, Chip. All right, Jenny, so why don't you share a little bit about yourself with us. Happy Friday, girl.
Yeah. So as we get started, I'll just share a tiny bit of background. I'm a special ed administrator. And I've been in special ed for about a decade. So I'm a director of special education for a district just outside of Bakersfield here in California. Prior to that, I have done everything from working with preschoolers to teaching high school kids with autism, to working with gen ed populations as well. I think the most important thing that I've done throughout my work is just find kids and help them figure out what they're passionate about. And when I was coming into today, I was thinking about, what are 3 important things that I would consider during this time, which is crazy, right? Like, we've never seen anything like this before in education. And so, these are just the things that I was thinking about. So the first and most important is, like, everyone, please take care of yourselves. Working from home is definitely different. I've had the opportunity to do it before a couple different times. And I think, the benefits of the freedom that you have with being able to set your schedule and your environment is really great. But the flip side of that is you can just work all day and you can burn yourself out, and that is not going to benefit kids and families. So please set boundaries, do things you enjoy, move your body. I've been trying to do yoga and go walking, but taking care of yourself is the best thing you can do to take care of others. So first and foremost, that.
Thank you, Jenny. And Jenny, let me just plug in there, because one, I just like setting boundaries, setting the schedule. I have heard so many people, both inside of education, outside of education, saying that is probably one of the hardest things, because it's required people to like switch routine, and we're, creatures of habit. So I love that you just started with that and named that, especially for teachers, because we know teachers they will work around the clock, just wanting to get things right for their kids. And so I really appreciate that. Also, if you have any questions throughout this, I think we could do something a little different. We could probably take some live questions where we could bring people on the screen.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that, when we go through the next couple of points, Jenny.
Okay. Yeah, and then the other 2 are fairly quick, because I want most of this time to be your questions. The first is more for my teachers that are out there, but really it's true for anyone. This is a hard time. It is an unknown time, and there's a lot of emotions associated with that. But it also is a great time to learn and grow. So the first thing that I would encourage is you're going to do some unprecedented things in education over the next few weeks by force of situation. And so I would just encourage folks to learn from all the good things that are out there, like go on Twitter, go on any social media and find, what people are doing. I'm in the Facebook group teaching during COVID-19, and there's lots of resources that are out there. I have a friend who's in the ed tech movement, and he's put together like 4 different challenges. His blog is called Teacher Totter, and he has a bunch of different things going on. And there's just a ton of resources that are coming out. I've been really excited to see in the philanthropic community too, they're putting together things for families and students. Whether it's Common Sense Media just put something out, it's called Wide Open School. That's a good thing to look into, but just educate yourself. There's so much out there, and teachers never have time, right? And this is a time where you do have a little bit more time. And so I would take advantage of it and just become the best learner you can be. And then the second point I have is more for, yep, go ahead.
What was the name of that resource that you just shared?
Wide Open School. It's through Common Sense Media. And they put together, there's a section for teachers, there's a section for leaders, there's a section for parents on like sort of the best that's out there.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you all have any resources out there or strategies that you've tried in, adjusting in this time, particularly for teachers or school leaders, students with needs, please share. We'd love to hear from you as well.
Yes. And then share that learning on social media.
Can you also share, what I know a lot of folks here, we've been inviting people that either teach students with special needs or learning disabilities, or that have parents who actually have kids, or leaders who lead schools where there's obviously special education. Is there anything in particular that you're seeing right now that has been a challenge? I know you talked about like first and foremost the socio-emotional like well-being. The second one is just like offering some like reinforcement and advice around this is a time for opportunity to do research, to try new strategies, and you offered a couple of resources there. Can you offer anything that you're seeing around this time around like the amendments with IEPs and just like some work there? And I know you were going to the third point as well.
Yeah. So my third point is related. And I think this is more for my leaders, but again, it's for everyone. People are going to remember more about how they felt in this moment than what it is that you actually do or say. And so just make sure when you're talking to parents, especially parents of kids with disabilities, when you're talking to kids with disabilities, when it's remote, be really mindful about the language you're using, be relationship driven, and write it all down is the other thing that I would add on to that. So leaders, when you're engaging with anyone, but especially parents and teachers, you set the tone. So being calm, being solutions oriented, focusing on things that are going to happen, and then documenting those things is really important. So I was just meeting with my special ed team yesterday over Zoom, and talking about the California specific things that we have to do, because CDE has given us a little bit of guidance as to what they'd like, California Department of Ed. And we're heading into a world where we have to design virtual services, which is scary for people. And it's different, speech services have been through telecommunications for a while in more rural areas, and now everyone's sort of opening up what that looks like. But with education, you know, we're talking about the same thing in terms of academics and social goals. The good news is there's a ton of web-based resources that we already use in our classrooms that we can still extend to students. And then, you know, the service part at that time becomes a little bit more like mentoring, and just checking in with kids. How are you doing? Filming some asynchronous videos or modifying things. But yeah, we're amending every IEP. That's the guidance we were given in California. And we're essentially just, you know, we're using it as an opportunity to meet with parents and say, what's most important to you in working with your child, and what are the things we can do?
Yeah, yeah. That's really awesome. And it also is grounded in relationships first. I love what you elevated around people will remember how you treated them, how you made them feel, as opposed
Mhm.
to like what you actually did or what you said. And so I really appreciate that. And then you also spoke about mentorship. The question that we should be asking parents is like, what is it that you feel like you need most right now? And building a program to support kids based off of that. Are
Mhm.
there anything, and I know you're a part of the Teaching with COVID group on Facebook, is there anything that you saw that kept coming up for, are there any patterns out there with teachers that they're like, as it relates to special education services? I know there's a lot of folks who are like, I don't know what to do for my kid right now. You know, if they can't be delivered virtually, or they think that services cannot really be delivered virtually.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then there is the reality that not all our families have internet, especially in our rural areas. I see that a lot on social media, and then my teachers and I were talking about it yesterday. Um, First, I would ask is the most important thing instead of assume, because some families have different things going on. You know what I mean? Some have smartphones that have unlimited Wi-Fi. Some do have internet at home. And then our county is being pretty proactive in that. So I would see what's going on in your local government. Our county is going to be driving buses around to all the 47 districts that are in the area, and giving them Wi-Fi access from the bus,
Oh,
which,
really? Wow.
yeah. There's innovative things going on, and there's lots of people wanting to help.
Are they posting up in that like district? How does that work?
Um, I'm not entirely sure yet because they're still finalizing the plan. I'd heard they were going to pass out Wi-Fi hotspots, or like put Wi-Fi hotspots in a hub, or just like you link in from the bus. Buses are also delivering food. Um,
Yeah, as I
so
know.
it's connected to that. But I think the biggest thing I would say, because I see a lot of like, well, it's not even services. And I would hit pause on that. I would figure out what realistically you want to work on of the goals that are in the IEP. And think about ways to do that, because it doesn't always have to be one-on-one or small group instruction. It can be, you know, this really begs the question of like, what is teaching, right? So it can be a kid engaging in some independent exploration, and you offering scaffolds and checking in to make sure they're doing well with it. And then if they're not, adjusting course. Yesterday when I met with my teachers, I said, I don't expect you guys to be perfect. I do expect that you're communicating with kids and families, and we're helping them through this time. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Um, and
Okay.
that we're changing things if it's not working.
So, question here. I've also had quite a bit of parents who have children with ADD, ADHD. So just like a
Mhm.
very like concrete, um, just level, bite size, like here's what you can do as a parent in terms of setting an environment to better support your child who may have attention challenges.
Yeah, that's real. So I actually am really excited for some for quite a few populations of kids with disabilities, and ADHD is one of them. I think with learning at home, one of the things that's been taken away that's hard for kids with ADHD is the idea that they have to be quiet and seated in a room of 25 kids
Ooh,
for
that's
7.5 hours.
so good, Jenny. So
Yeah. So I would say actually,
with us, like, because growing up, like, that's what our parents did with us. It's like, no, sit down in that table. Anyone else feel me? Sit down on this table, do your work. Here's the dictionary. Don't talk. So, so I love that you're speaking to that.
yeah. And I would say take care of your kids' physiological, psychological needs first. So, like, make sure they're getting exercise, make sure they have water, make sure they've eaten, and then chunk things. So typically 30 minutes to 45 minutes of some sort of work demand, and then give them something different, whether it's time outside, take a walk, take a break, read a book. But just sort of mix up what they're doing throughout the day. Another population of kids that I'm excited for virtual learning opportunities is our kids with mental health issues. A lot of times transitions can be tricky. And we actually had some kids this year whose anxiety was so severe that they weren't really making it to school. And so we did have a little bit of a preview because we'd been trying things like this with them because we knew it wasn't realistic. If you are experiencing anxiety or depression and it's hard for you to want to leave the house, we will figure out a way to educate you and give you resources. And so for some families, this is almost a continuation of what we've been doing this year.
Mm-hmm. So I have two questions. I don't see any here yet, but I know these are questions that keep coming up. And you've spoken to students with mental illnesses, like what we could be doing right now. What are your thoughts around, what do you think this is going to look like? Knowing that, let's say at the high school level, where now I know in Georgia schools are canceled and like students, first of all, any senior who's been looking forward to their high school graduation for so long, that is obviously a pretty emotionally like taxing kind of thing for a lot of students. But then we have a lot of students with mental illness who are like with all of this and like what college is going to look like. And so any thoughts there?
Yeah. I think that it is important for school leaders to be thinking about how they are moving through this time, right? So my little brother is a senior in college, and there's definitely some disappointment for him and his girlfriend about heading through the rest of the year. But I think for the K-12 side, we can still do things to commemorate and celebrate our time together that don't have to be in person. Or they can. I went on a walk the other day, and there were teachers doing a parade through their students' neighborhoods, and their cars were all decorated with like, "We miss you." So think about the things like that you can do. And then I obviously am not a high school principal, but I would still be doing something over the summer to celebrate that people are graduating, because that is a huge deal. And then, for a lot of kids, especially in the older grades, it could mirror what college is going to look like. You know what I mean? Like, there are online class options. There are lots of things in which being more computer literate and learning how to manage your time is important, but schools should be supporting kids in learning how to do those things, because executive function is something that's still developing. And so if you want kids to be successful, you have to teach them how to manage their time, how to prioritize, how to delegate a big assignment into chunks. And those are things that special ed kids need, but those are things that all kids need. And adults. I'm still working on those myself.
I need all of that. Yes. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us this morning and just sharing your thoughts, just some pieces of advice and answering, the questions that I know keep coming up in our educational community. I really appreciate you waking up super early at 5 something in the morning, West Coast time. But thanks so much.